I'm honored to be here with Rabbi Ephraim Mirvis, the Chief Rabbi of the United Hebrew Congregations of the Commonwealth. Chief Rabbi Mirvis is a great friend of World Jewish Relief and a passionate advocate for its global work. His leadership has helped guide the organization over the years as its remit has developed to reaching beyond the Jewish community. Rabbi Mirvis, for many here in the UK, you've long been a strong advocate of social justice, fairness, and charity. I suppose the big question is, what drives you and who inspires you?
So first of all, Yalda, lovely to meet you and welcome to my home. And it's such a lovely opportunity for me to have this chat with you. I didn't one day sit down and say, what are the policies of my life going to be? What you're talking about is integrated within me. It's been a part of me all the time. And I guess what has contributed to the person I am has been a combination of this is a Torah way of life. This is a result of the home within which I grew up, plus the fact that my childhood was spent in apartheid South Africa. And I benefited from a challenging environment within which I grew up, which certainly contributed towards the person I am today.
Help us to understand that responsibility a little bit more, because the past year has been incredibly difficult and challenging for so many people here in the UK. Lives and livelihoods have been lost. People have been dealing with a pandemic, yet we've seen displacement, suffering, conflict, poverty outside our shores. What is the responsibility of the Jewish community and, charities such as this to those people?
It's complex and it's challenging, enormously challenging. But there's a lesson of the pandemic itself. The pandemic doesn't differentiate between people of different genders, colors, faiths, races. The pandemic doesn't recognize borders. And as a result, we're all on the same side. If only all of our societies would take on board that message and that lesson. It is natural at a time such as this that we are turning inwards, because it's me, it's my family, it's my community, my society. And we do, of course, need to prioritize the local scene. But together with that, we will only see an end to this pandemic if we provide a global solution through the vaccination drive. So the pandemic is teaching us about the importance of looking outwards. And that comes right to the heart of what World Jewish Relief is about. Looking after senior Jewish citizens in Eastern Europe, providing employment opportunities for refugees, responding to the natural disasters that occur from time to time.
So then, in short, what does World Jewish Relief mean to you?
It means Judaism. It's central to our ethos as a people, as a faith. In the Talmud, the great sage Ben Azai taught that the most important principle of the entire Bible is Genesis chapter 5, verse 1, which tells us that every human being is created in the image of God. And as a result, we naturally should feel for the suffering of all people, and that should encourage us to do something about it. There are a lot of people who have the right feelings, but World Jewish Relief helps us to act on our feelings and to do something about it.
What do you see as the greatest challenges for the year ahead? And what do you think World Jewish Relief and the community can do to help?
I'd identify three main challenges that we're aware of. Who knows what else might arrive on the scene? This is an age of deep challenges. The coronavirus is still very much with us. And please God, we should only be healthy and we should move forward. And we shouldn't have to tackle new variants. The second challenge is the climate crisis. And the third is friction within our society. By and large, we are losing our touch when it comes to what in Jewish circles we call a machloket l'shem shamayim, an argument for the sake of heaven. Instead of debating, people are fighting. There's deepening polarization. This is leading increasingly to conflict, and the result of conflict is poverty and disaster and human suffering. And World Jewish Relief actually is central in all of these areas, in providing help to people during the coronavirus at a time when human suffering has been deepened, Tackling climate change. I'm so pleased that World Jewish Relief has responded to one of the great challenges of our time and is including tackling climate change as an essential plank of what it does, because it naturally fits in to what World Jewish Relief is all about. Because tackling climate change is about caring for others. You know, in the Midrash, which is an anthology of Jewish teachings from 2,000 years ago, the great sage Rabban Shimon Bar Yochai tells a tale of a boat on the high seas, and people have paid for their seats to travel. And there's a man who's drilling a hole underneath his seat because it was a hot day and he needed some water to refresh his feet. And all the other passengers said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I paid for the seat. I can do what I want." And they said, "But don't you realize you're going to cause us all to drown?" And I think that's a fair description of where we are today. What I do in my home has a direct impact on whether islands somewhere or other in the world might be covered by water within just a few decades. We all have a responsibility to care for everybody all around the world in tackling climate change, and it's now central to what World Jewish Relief is about, and I'm so proud of it.
And I think the other thing that World Jewish Relief really does, and the climate issue you've touched on, but also working with refugees and people who have been displaced, and really looking beyond the community, working with all of humanity. And in the same way, helping thousands of Afghan refugees who have come into this country and other parts of the world, who have been forced to flee and leave their home and country. And when I've spoken to many Jewish friends about why they have reached out and why they want to help, they say, we understand that it's not just our responsibility, but we also understand what it means to lose your home, to flee, to become stateless.
They've given the right answer. We know perhaps more than any other people what it means to be on the road, to be homeless, to be looking desperately for a safe haven, for a country which will take us in, looking for work, looking for dignity. And I think we just naturally do it. And one of the most poignant moments of my Chief Rabbinate so far, I'm now in my 9th year as Chief Rabbi, was a visit to Adomeni on the border between Greece and North Macedonia. I went to see some of the World Jewish Relief projects, and I took a number of my senior rabbis with me. We were so immensely proud of how monies raised from our Jewish community, from generous people, were being used magnificently, for example, through the establishment of a mobile medical unit to save lives there, through handing out halal sandwiches, portals for the charging of mobile phones. You know, I could see myself, the 21st century refugee is somebody who hasn't had food to eat for 4 days, but has a smartphone. And that's the reality of life. And I visited at a time when up to 10,000 refugees were pouring through that area every single day. And for a Jewish organization to be there on the front line, to provide such life-saving help, is a memory I'll always take with me, together with my sense of pride as to what we as a community were doing thanks to World Jewish Relief. Something that I'm missing out on right now in the pandemic is the annual World Jewish Relief dinner. For me, it's always one of the highlights of the year, to be in a room with people who are motivated to help, who are not just there to have a good time, but you feel something very special in the air, that here is a Jewish community that cares and that deeply wants to do something about human suffering out there. And I really look forward to post-pandemic times when we can have the dinners again. If World Jewish Relief didn't exist, we would need to create it. And if right now we would try to create it, we would never be able to create something as good as what it really is. It's something the British Jewish community is immensely proud of.
Rabbi Mirvis, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Yalda.